Hello. We're going to rerun the episode we did with Brad Stewart, who very tragically passed away on October 24th, 2022. Aside from being a really funny, talented comedian, he opened the doors for so many comics, both aspiring and veteran performers. He was a wise ass to the end, a great friend, and a wonderful dude.
Hey, this is Brad Stewart, and you're listening to the Matty Ball Game Volunteer Podcast.
All right, thank you for tuning in once again to the Matt Balaker Podcast. We are joined by executive producer and geographic free agent Eric Servone. How you doing, Eric?
That's right. I'm taking bribes. So if any state wants me, let me know.
Or if anyone really doesn't want him, pay him enough, and he will never set foot in your beautiful
I'll take
state.
money from anyone for anything. So yeah, absolutely.
Well, I think, Eric, you're going to learn a lot today from our guest. And I'm excited because this guy's just a delight in many ways. He's a coconut water junkie. He appreciates hair metal more than pop country. He's an excellent comedian and a terrific son. He's the brains behind one of Nebraska's best comedy showcases. It's Zoolarius at the legendary zoo. You got to check it out if you're in the Lincoln, Nebraska area. Give it up for the wonderful and the fabulous Brad Stewart, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
Brad Stewart, how are you, Brad?
I'm good, man. How are you?
I'm doing well. So as mentioned, like Eric, right now you're in Indiana, and he's kind of looking at different places to move. And so I want to learn from you, Brad. Like you had a 16-year tour of duty in Los Angeles. That's where
17,
you and I met.
Actually.
Oh, 17.
Yeah.
Don't want to shortchange you.
Almost legal.
Yeah, I did my time.
You did time. Yeah, you definitely did time. What motivated you to move to LA initially?
Just a dream I had since I was a kid. I mean, I always gravitated towards the stage. I did speech and theater, but I grew up in small towns in Nebraska, so you're like allowed to do everything, which was like one of the
Isn't
nice
that nice?
things.
Yeah.
One of the nice things about growing up in a small town is I played football and I wrestled, but I also was in the band. I was in the choir. I was in plays. I was in speech. And so I always wanted to move to LA. I had written a letter to Michael J. Fox right around 1985 when I was in sixth grade, asking him for advice for when I moved to LA when I graduated from high school.
And what did he say?
It didn't get back to me.
What?
Yeah.
He did.
I did put a PS, if you don't respond to this, you will get Parkinson's. So I was... So that's on him.
Yeah, I mean, he had an out. So you were how old when you boarded up?
21
and moved,
when I moved to LA. 2 weeks after I turned 21, and I'd saved $600.
Oh, so
I
that's
could, get started on that because I've always been an idiot with money. I mean, I'm a little less of an idiot, but I mean, so I needed a lot of help from my parents when I first moved out. I couldn't even put a security deposit. Even in 1995, I couldn't put a security deposit on a shitty studio.
No, that wouldn't get you a week and a half on Fountain, but yeah. But you did it. So what were your expectations, I guess, when you're 21 moving to LA? What did you think it would be like?
Oh, I thought it'd be, like you see in the movies, like every street's, lined with palm trees, which I soon found out were non-indigenous. I'm like, everything in LA is fake. Even the trees were imported. Even the trees aren't from here. Yeah, it was a culture shock for sure.
But the urine on the streets, that's the real deal, Brad. There's no faking that.
Well, with my dad, bless him, he drove out with me. And we went through Hollywood first, and that's like, oh, this isn't glamorous at all. I was totally lied to. But I was still super excited to be out there and just.
And were your goals comedic or acting, or what did you aspire to do? Okay.
Yeah, I just moved out there. I was a theater major. I only went to a couple semesters of college, and then I was like, oh, why am I bullshit? I'm gonna go be a star. But I've always loved stand-up comedy. I've always been a obsessive fan of stand-up comedy ever since I was really young. And I grew up in like the 80s and especially the late 80s when every station had some kind of stand-up special on it. They're eating at the Improv. There was that Ice House show. I can't remember what the Ice House show was called. The Rosie O'Donnell hosted that for a while.
Oh,
and then there was like, the MTV's Half Hour Comedy Hour.
Sure.
There was like so much stuff. And I would watch it and memorize everybody's bits. And so I always loved stand-up and I always wanted to do it. And then I figured that was what a great way to just, be able to do something, write your own material, get on stage. And so I entered a contest that it was at the Hollywood Athletic Club. That was at Universal. It's not there anymore, but I ended up winning that. And the first person it was the second time they'd done the contest. The person that won the first time was Bill Dwyer.
not a bad,
awesome
person to follow. Yeah.
Yeah. But then it went right downhill and I won.
So where did you
contest I've ever won ever in comedy, and it was like $500, and I used it to register my car.
See, you're moving from 600 now you have $1,100 to your name, assuming you didn't have to pay anything when you got there.
But you were drinking coconut water too. That's awesome.
This is in your honor. Yeah, I bought this for you. I would love to give it to you, but I just have to explain that. Quite pleasant.
But yeah, after that contest, I was like, I'm just going to do this. This is awesome.
So what year was that, Brad?
That would have been around 96, 97.
Okay. So that was
in LA for a couple of years.
And was that your inauguration into stand-up as a performer?
Well, I'd done one show in Lincoln, like before I had left, but I'd kind of having a theater background, I kind of wrote it more like a monologue than a stand-up set. And it was ridiculous because it was in this place called Persian Auditorium, which isn't open anymore, but it was a pretty big venue at one time. And they had a car show inside of it. And they decided to do a stand-up comedy competition in the middle of this car show.
Hey, why not?
They had like 3 judges watching. There was I think there was like 4 people in the contest. I got 3rd, so it was pretty.
So you medaled in your first attempt. Congratulations.
Yeah, I beat one person. Yeah.
Wait, you beat one person, you got 3rd?
Yeah. Well, there was 4 entries.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I thought I got 3rd.
There was a couple of us, and I got 3rd.
Yeah.
Okay, so you follow Bill Dwyer's footsteps. You're in Los Angeles, and then everything is just roses. I assume you're on TV. You're making money.
Sure. That's
pushing models away from your bedroom.
In my head,
what's life like?
It was for a while, but no, it was a struggle. And I got a couple of opportunities doing some shows. There was an agent casting director that had seen me on the show, and she brought me into Fox Studios to audition for a Two Guys, a Girl, and a Pizza Place. Do you remember that?
Oh, I do.
Show?
Yeah,
that was Ryan Reynolds' first big show, and I remember driving into the Fox lot, and I was all like, "Oh yeah, this is how it starts." And the audition was okay, but she was just real forward, which I appreciated. She's like, "You know what? You're not my guy, but I like you." And then she called me a month or so later, and she says, "Hey, I know Josh Wolf, and he's doing booking the New Faces show at the Improv. Would you like to do that?" And I'm like, "Yeah."
Wow.
So I did that. I booked for that through. Do you know Josh Wolf?
Oh yeah. He was looked 33, but had like a 17-year-old son, and still looks the same, and is super funny and handsome. Yeah, I hate him for all those. He's a great human being.
He got successful after being on Chelsea Lately.
Mm-hmm. But he was a beast. I'd see him at bar shows just destroying. He's hilarious.
His claim to fame at that time, though, he was cousins with Scott Wolf, who was from Party of 5.
Oh, I didn't know that. You're a wealth of knowledge, Brad Stewart.
But the thing about that show is, and it really was an eye opener for me, because I was like, "Oh my God, Improv!" Because I used to, like I said, I used to watch the Evening at the Improv, and that
Bud Friedman,
brick wall. You think stand-up comedy, you think of that. Well, at least I did. You think of that brick wall behind you. And I was also a huge fan when I was a kid growing up of the show In Living Color.
Oh, that was. I loved SNL, but nothing got me more geeked out than In Living Color. I remember Sunday nights.
Right. And I lived in a small town, and Fox wasn't available then. You couldn't get it. And my sister, who lived in the big city of Lincoln, she on a VHS recorded the episodes for me and would mail them to me. But
what a nice
imagine
sister.
how great the world would be if Fox News wasn't available in rural areas still. But anyway, so I was obsessed to that show, and but I found out on the New Faces show, before the New Faces show, they had a special celebrity guest, and it was Damon Wayans. And I was like, awesome! I'm going to be on the same show as Damon Wayans. It turned out to not be awesome because he did like a 90-minute set and got the entire New Faces show canceled.
he had to work out some material for his next tour.
So they rebooked us all for a month later. So I come back a month later feeling just as happy, just as excited, and Damon Wayans showed up again. And again, he did 90 minutes, and again, the New Faces show got canceled.
So Damon Wayans just crushing your dreams, like
and he
one
wasn't
show
even
at a time.
Stand up, really. He was kind of thinking he might have been going through a divorce at the time, and he was just pissed off and just kind of ranting and raving up there because he could. And then a month later, we got booked again, and I'm like, you know what? Maybe this is the time for me. It seemed like it was the best crowd of the 3 nights that I'd done it, and I'd been waiting tables for a while at that point, so I brought like 12 people to see me that I worked with, and then Damon Wayans showed up and did the same fucking thing.
Okay.
But I had 12 people there, so I got the courage up, and I saw Bud Friedman was standing at the end of the hallway. Like, you know how the improv is, where you have to walk down that hallway to get to the showroom. He was at the front of the hallway, I should say. And I worked up the courage, and I said, "Hey, Bud, I was supposed to be on the New Faces show the last couple times, and Damon Wayans showed up and got it canceled, and I actually have 12 people here to see me. Could I possibly get up and do like 5 minutes?" And he's like, "Sure, yeah, just go down the hallway and tell the door guy I told you can get on the list."
Good for you.
So I walk down the hallway. I look at the door guy and I go, "Hi, I just talked to Buddy, and he said I was supposed to be on the New Faces show, and he said I could do 5 minutes on this next show." And the door guy goes, "Bud said that? I don't believe you."
Was the door guy Dave Hansen?
Back down the hallway again and tap Bud on the shoulder and be like, "He doesn't believe me." And then Bud looked more annoyed at me. Finally told the guy, "Yeah, he's fine." And then the guy puts me up at the very end, and 12 of my friends ended up being like, 6 stuck around. And maybe like, I don't know, 5 other people. So at my debut at the Improv was like at midnight on a Tuesday in front of like 9 to 10 people. And I did okay.
And I did okay. It wasn't one of those marathon bringer shows though. So for the first time.
It wasn't.
That was my initial, I grew up watching Evening at the Improv, and I remember someone, I don't have to say his name, but it's like, come to the show at the Improv, and it's like on a Sunday. I'm like, that's sweet. And then like, a few days before, can you bring 19 people? I was like, no, I can't. Like, I thought you just wanted me because you saw me at this coffee house. And
that person whose name you're not going to say owns his own comedy club now in Texas.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
Now he can actually, now he actually is his own bringer club.
I mean, in a way, it hardens you because in a way, every stand-up show is a bringer to some extent. I kind of get that now, but it was so disheartening. I was just like, but I'm just a performer. I don't know. I can't. If I could bring 20 people, I wouldn't, be doing this.
Exactly. You could bring people to like the first once or twice, know, like, and then when you make it, then you can.
And then that happens. It's like it is fun once or twice, but then your friends are like, "Do you want me to see me do the exact same 4.5 minutes I did 3 weeks ago, and it'll be a 19-hour show?" Like, no, we don't want that.
Yeah.
So I know you're waiting. You like a lot of people, you had to get a day job. You're a waiter. How often were you high while you're waiting tables, Brad? I think that's what listeners want to know.
In my 20s, every time. I don't know how I did it now. Like, I'm 47 now, but when I was like 25, every shift.
Nice. Well,
the only problem that I memorized orders without writing them down and stuff. The hardest part was not wanting to like eat the food.
Like I just want to kind of a little. Are those mozzarella sticks?
Yeah.
So you worked at that
mozzarella sticks. There's only 6. There's actually 5.5. One has a big bite out of it.
So you moved there in the mid '90s to LA. You're working was that restaurant in La Brea, right? Was that where you were most of the time?
No, I started out in Encino at this place called Maria's Italian Kitchen. I was there for about 10 years.
Oh, wow. Okay.
The place on La Brea, that was where I had my own comedy show, Amalfi. It was called.
I remember that. Yeah, thank you.
That was Room 5. Yeah.
Room 5. Thank you for booking me that time. Those times. So at what point, you're all like dog-eared, right, when you get there, and then Damon Wayans cock blocks you a little bit.
Yeah.
How did your attitude change or progress from, I'm going to call it like year 1 to maybe year 8 or 9 in Los
It
Angeles?
was shitty. I was shitty. I was bitter, and I'm sure I turned a lot of people off with my attitude. It's hindsight, obviously, but especially when you're in that age, you think, you're like, in your early to mid 20s, you think, oh, I'm fucking awesome. Why people, why haven't I made it yet?
Right. Yeah, exactly.
But I never had the attitude like that I should be headlining. I just thought I should be on shows because I'm like, I know I don't have enough material to be headlining. But I see that now more than ever. Like a comic that did an open mic, they've been doing comedy since breakfast. Like, I want to start headlining. And I'm like, no, why do you build an act first? Like, I don't understand this unearned sense of confidence that some comics have. I had it to an extent, but
it's strange, Brad, because like on one hand, you need to think you're funnier than you are, you're more talented than you are to have the courage to get up there initially. But then, you kind of need some reality checks along the way where you see people who have been doing it for decades and you're like, oh, they're still grinding. And, but in prep for this show, I watched a pretty recent bit of yours. Recent, it was like 2 years ago. And it was awesome. Like, cause I've seen you probably, 8, 9 times in LA, maybe more. I don't remember, but it's sort of like in Los Angeles, especially in the early 2000s, it kind of feels like 100-meter hurdle. It's like comics, you go over one joke, then the next, and then it's 5 minutes and ta-da, like take a bow when you cross the finish line. And it was really cool watching you now because one, it was your own show and you were just so calm and relaxed and you were always really funny, but it felt like more you instead of just a person telling jokes. It's like I'm learning about Brad Stewart in a very entertaining way, but the act could breathe. And I could tell there was like parts of you that were just, this is how I am. But then you would intermingle like these really funny bits. And before I knew it, it was like 15 minutes. But it was so different from
that makes you feel good.
The Laugh Lounge. So I really enjoyed it.
Also, like in LA, because I had to, I had to work all the time just to survive. So I didn't hardly do the road at all.
Yeah.
The first opportunity I got was in like around 2004, where there's an agent that liked me, and he did a little hip pocket thing where he's like, I have too many clients as it is. I have too many clients as it is. So, but I like you, and I'm going to throw you some feature work, and he did, and I opened for Tom Rhodes, and we became really good buddies. Like, it was like in Ventura, like I can't remember the name of the club. I think it's changed names now, but that's touring.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
LA,
it took 3 hours to get there.
30 minutes outside of LA. That's a tour. And then I got a week in Vegas doing that too. But just being able to leave LA where every set is like 5 or 8 minutes tops, when you're able actually to branch out and, relax a little bit and piece those 5-minute, 8-minute sets together into a 20, 30-minute set, it really changes. Especially when you're used to doing short time, you could take your time more. What I mean? In LA, like I always wanted to, especially early on, I wanted to rush through I want to get I have so many funny things I want to say. I want to rush through it all. And I was so written, like everything, every pause, every nuance, I wanted to hit it, which can be good, but it also doesn't seem natural.
Right. It's like every show is a showcase. And you have to hit each beat the same time every time. So you opened for Joan Rivers for 2 years.
3.
Okay. Again, I'm shortchanging you every second.
And then she selfishly died and took that work away.
What a bitch. That's very rude. So how did that happen? Take us to your.
It's this old adage that who you know. I was dating an agent at her agency.
Nice.
And I was actually home in Nebraska visiting my parents in like around 2010. And Joan had 3 dates in a row in the Midwest, like Springfield, Missouri, Tulsa, Oklahoma, and someplace else. I can't remember right now. But anyways, it was 3 Midwestern dates, bam, bam, bam. And my girlfriend said, hey, send me your clip so I can send them over to Joan and see if she likes you. And maybe you can do these shows. So I did. And they liked me enough and hired me. And we got along so good that she just kept hiring me. After the 3rd show, I was like, okay, hopefully I can do this again.
Right.
She walks up to me. She goes, what's your parents' address? I was like, why? What did I do wrong? She's like, no, I just want to send them a note about how great you were. I want to send your mom some of my QVC jewelry.
You're like, I like the sentiment, but keep the jewelry, John.
No, it was nice. She did do it. She did it. And my mom, it wasn't like my mom was like a big fan. My mom wasn't a big jewelry wearer anyways, but my mom appreciated it.
Oh, that's an awesome gesture.
That she did that. Because then I went on Amazon and I bought, which I encourage any comedian or anybody that that loves a good story to read her first book, which is called Enter Talking. And it's actually legit, like, autobiography. Like every book she's released since then are all like joke books, really. I mean, they're great, but this one is like really real. Like it's her whole, like her true story. And her parents never supported her in her dreams. She wanted to be an actress too. Like that was her biggest dream, was to be an actress. And she was living in New York and then was talking to like people like Dom DeLuise, and the people are like, how much are you making a weekend to do comedy? Okay, I'm gonna do that. And that's how she kind of fell into stand-up, but I think that's why she was so nice to me, and like also wanted to let my parents know that I'm actually talented, because she knows what it's like. Joan Rivers' career went like this, so she never forgot what this felt like.
Yeah, no, I mean
her
peaks were like as high as they get, but it didn't stay that way.
Yeah.
So she sent the note to your parents that she wanted someone to send to her parents at some point.
Yeah.
That's very, very nice. And so can take us back to when you returned home. What were the circumstances? You were in LA full time for, call it, 17 years.
Yeah.
Then you're back
right around the same time, about the end of 2009, 2010. Well, it'd been a couple of years prior to that. My dad started slouching really weird. Like we're like, why can't you like lift your head up? What is going on? He's like, I don't know, and he went to the doctor, and he used to smoke, but it had been years and years, and I mean over like 30 years since he smoked. But doctors just always want, oh, you smoked, okay, COPD, no, bye.
Emphysema, okay, yeah. Take some pills, you're done.
And it took years, but it was right around the time that I was starting to open for Joan that they went to the Mayo Clinic, and pretty much they eliminated everything until the last thing on the list was ALS, which is Lou Gehrig's disease. So he had Lou Gehrig's disease, which he'd already had. Obviously it had it for a couple of years, but it became real and really diagnosed in around the same time I was opening for Joan. It's just like kind of how fucked up life can be.
Yeah.
Oh, the best thing in my life.
You're like, thanks, Dad. I'm finally turning a corner. Yeah. But then you get this. So 98% of comedians in LA would send a card or an email saying, I'm sorry, Dad, stay there. But what did you do?
I moved home. Well, I waited for a little while because my sister said he's doing well, and my sister's my best friend. She's 13 years older than me, but we're just really, really close. And I know she's not gonna, she's always gonna shoot straight to me.
Yeah.
Like one of my favorite pictures is she went to a couple of shows with me and Joan, and they had my name on the dressing room, which is always exciting.
Sure.
I don't care how, if I was ever hugely successful, I would never get tired of that. No. My favorite picture is my sister standing outside my dressing room, just flipping off my name, like, no. But she goes, I will call you and let you know when it's time for you to come home, when Dad has taken a turn where you should come home. And I got that call in 2000, like towards the end of 2011. And so I just packed up everything, sold whatever I had. I mean, I didn't accumulate that much in LA. I had a lot of CDs, which are worth nothing now. I went to Amoeba and sold like all these like CDs and rock and roll books and shit, because I'm obsessed with music too. So, I got like $3 or something for all of it. This huge box.
I think I bought your Motley Crue collection, so thank you for that.
But yeah, then in February of 2012, I moved back, and then I was moved in my parents' basement, and I just took care of my dad for a while.
And I like your bit about moving into your parents' basement, but you're actually doing it because you're taking care of them because you're a good person.
Yeah.
And so that's like if your parents had to go through all this and you get like 4 or 5 minutes of new material out of it, it's kind of,
Yeah, I got a lot of new material out of it, actually. Now it's been long enough now, though, that I'm like, I got to write some more shit.
Yeah. So I mean, you're obviously being a great human being. You're helping your parents out when they need it the most. But you still have the comedy bug, and you had all this years of training in Los Angeles. Then what?
Then I was like, well, what's going on in Lincoln? And there was nothing. There's an open mic in Lincoln at this bar called Duffy's, which was going on when I was in college. And I did improv in college.
It sounds like the Simpsons bar, but yeah, it's actually called Duffy's. Okay.
Yeah, they don't have Duff beer, but they should. It's a little Irish bar. But I mean, they've had like a comedy open mic there since like, the early 80s.
Mm-hmm.
So that was really the only game in town. And then there was some young comics that were starting to do some stuff. They had like a comedy troupe they were doing. And it was just like 4 different stand-up comics that were like running shows, open mics, different things.
Mm-hmm.
But I started booking myself as a headliner in different places around Lincoln. And then I was like, well, I met these younger comics that started doing some stuff. And I'm like, well, let's start doing some book shows. And, maybe I can get some comics that I know from LA when they're traveling through to pop in and do some of these shows. And it was trial and error for sure. I did a show at this like kind of like Western bar steakhouse that was like huge and like gigantic. And it was like on Wednesday night at 9:00, but the guy like paid me like crazy good money to do it.
So that's the first change from LA. You're getting paid pretty well to do stand-up comedy.
Yeah. But there was hardly ever anybody showing up because, I mean, it's Lincoln, Nebraska on a Wednesday night. So it was a struggle. And then sometimes people would show up and just be just rude and talk all the time. And how I lost the show was have you heard of Sam Talent? I wouldn't call him new, but compared to how long we've done stand up, he's been around for at least 10 years or so. He's a Denver comedian. He's just a beast. He's hilarious. He's just an amazing comedian. He'll just blow your mind if you see him. But I had him booked for this show at this Western steakhouse, and nobody was there except then these like 3 businessmen showed up. There was an NBC Suites next door. And if you've ever been to Lincoln, Nebraska, there is a million bars in Lincoln, Nebraska that you can just go and drink, watch a football game or whatever. And these guys come in and they just start talking in the middle of his set. And he's really good at improv and working the crowd. But even he would like make them laugh a little bit. Then they would go back to talking. And then after the show was over, I got up and I go, you guys, why would you even come in here? You're like, hey, we want to have some drinks. I know where we go. There's a million places we could go around here. I know. Let's go talk during someone's dreams. And then they said something smart ass, and I jumped off the stage, and I was in their face and screaming at them. And then I messaged the owner. I'm like, I'm probably not going to do this show. He's like, that's probably good.
That's a good. Yeah, I felt the same way.
Yeah, you probably got tired of paying me for nothing too. But but I was like, now what am I going to do? But then my favorite venue in Lincoln, even from when I was younger, and I was too young to go in there. I would just look in the window and go, that place
longingly
cool. Is the Zoo Bar. It's a longtime blues venue. They started off as there was a guy who was an art student at the University of Nebraska Lincoln that loved the blues, had an opportunity to lease this space and just booked all kinds of blues bands and a lot of Chicago blues bands and stuff. And it's evolved over the years because you can't just have blues. I mean, blues is great, but now they have all kinds of genres of music, and it's always good. Some of the best shows I've ever seen are there, and it's like 125 capacity. It's kind of like shoebox shaped and intimate, so it's actually perfect for stand-up comedy as well. And I just kept thinking this would be a great place to have stand-up comedy. And this young comic at the time had done a couple shows there, and so I, not to be a dick, I didn't want to like steal the show from him. I just would you be interested in doing it? Because I looked at their calendar, and they usually had music. They had music 6 nights a week, and usually Sunday was open. So I just said, would you be open to doing comedy on Sunday? And the owner was like, well, sure. And that was almost 8 years ago. And he loves it now. The owner was like, I don't know anything about comedy. I'm like, well, I do. I was in LA for 17 years, and give me a shot. And he's always like, I don't know how you do it. You're getting people here. It doesn't, like, it was slow going for a while, but
yeah. What's the crowd like? Are they regulars? Are they people coming through? What?
There's regulars. There's I would say there's some people that come, they'll come like 2 or 3 weeks in a row. Then I won't see them for maybe like a month or so. But there's definitely people that I see regularly. I mean, there's a good friend of mine, Sarah, that's there every week.
Thank you, Sarah. You're good people.
She's great people. Yeah. unless she's out of town. And then, you know,
I never liked Sarah that much anyways.
and my girlfriend is awesome too. She has a great sense of humor. She's not an easy laugher. But what she does is she laughs for like 5 people. So I'm like, I have a really good comic book. I'm like, you have to be there because I need your laughs.
That's awesome. And how has the show evolved in the last 8 years?
It's just I've just gotten more people interested. Just doing it is basically the thing. And then I have touring comedians come through. Like it helped that I've known Kyle Kinane since 2004 2005 or so. Like when he did my Room 5 show, right? So I'd hit him up to do it, and he's got a nice fan base here, and so he sold it out when he did it, and that helped word of mouth.
Sure.
And then the word's just kind of spread, and I just remember what it's like when you reach out to try to get booked on stuff, and it's the apathy. Yeah. And the complete, just the dismissive, I'm not even going to respond to you is what drove me crazy. If you were to say, I'm sorry, you're not right for the show, or, we can't use you right now. Great, fine. That's some sort of closure, and I can move on from that.
Put a button on this. Yeah.
But just leaving it hanging out there and ignoring my messages and shit, that drives me crazy. So I try not to be that guy. So anybody that messages me, I try to get back to them. And if they have clips online, I'll watch them. Mm-hmm. But mostly if it's a comic that I love and they're like, this guy's or this woman, this person's great. I'm like, okay, they're booked. Yeah. You need some clips? I'm like, I like you. Do you like them? They're like, yeah. I don't need to see clips. I'll be seeing them for the first time when I book them on the show, which is more fun for me. Anyway.
It's way more fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we started kind of pre-YouTube, pre-social media.
I know.
And then I thank God for that. But,
in a way, right?
Yeah. But still, when I started, it was, New York, Chicago, LA. I mean, there were pockets, obviously Boston. I mean, but kind of metropolitan hubs for the most part. Mm-hmm. How do you think this is going to change for the next generation of comics? Do you think it'll still be, we want to move to New York, or is Lincoln, Nebraska the next hub?
I still think that comics should move to a bigger market. I just do at a young age. Mm-hmm. But I think you should do some stuff in where you're from first, which is my mistake. I didn't, I moved to LA to be an actor. So but in hindsight, I would much rather have done some more comedy. There's a Funny Bone here in Nebraska. I wish I would have gotten in with a Funny Bone at a young age and maybe tried to, host some shows there, or had some more experience under my belt. Mm-hmm. But now there's so much DIY now. It's crazy, there's a lot that shouldn't be doing it, but they're doing it,
And that's probably in a way always been the case. It's more visible now.
When I started in 90, 96, 97, it was still at the tail end of when the bubble burst for stand up, when all these mm-hmm. clubs had closed across the country, and there wasn't, there was the alternative scene was starting to come up. But stand up in the mainstream wasn't at where it is now, and it seemed like it has stayed there. In the 70s and 80s, it really got really, really big. And then by the early to mid 90s, it was the bubble burst. And that's why I thought I was funnier than I was in my early 20s, because there wasn't as many people doing it,
Damn competition. I hate that. So now we can get a little introspective if you want, Brad. So you moved to LA with certain dreams. You've matured. You've created your own path now. What would you say to the 21-year-old self now? How have your dreams changed?
Oh, I don't know. It's just it's much more satisfying to enjoy yourself and to remember why you're doing stand-up comedy in the first place. It's because you love stand-up comedy. You love it, and you love watching people that are good at it, and being able to facilitate that and watch other people do well as well is just as satisfying as yourself doing well. It's what that's what I've learned from moving back. It took, that's only been in the last 10 years that I've really learned that. It's mm-hmm. because I've seen it happen. I've seen some young comics that started doing open mics here in Lincoln, and they moved on to bigger markets, and some of them have gotten like into Just for Laughs, and in LA, I would have been like, that's bullshit. You know? I've been doing this for 12 years. You just started doing it Just for Laughs.
Not fair.
Not fair. Yeah, but it ain't fair. Life's not fair, and especially show business isn't fair. Like
we gotta clip that, Eric. Especially yeah, absolutely.
And it's just enjoy the moment and enjoy good people having good things happen to them. You know, I think when you do that, it raises everybody up. Supporting people that deserve to be supported is going to help you out in the long run. Anyways, I feel, you know, people like I like to champion comics that, you know, that send me messages, and maybe no one knows who they are, but you know, they're kind of popular in their own local scene or wherever they're from. And then I give them a spot, and they blow my mind. And I'm like, this person, and I love bragging about him. Like, you know, I just put this person in there, absolutely hilarious. And then, you know, then they tell people about my show, and they tell people that I'm a good guy and that I'm really funny, and they should do my show. You know, we all build each other up, and I think that's hopefully they'll get better attitude.
Absolutely. One day, Brad, they'll be big enough where they don't even return your texts, and then know,
that's what I hope for them. Yeah,
the birdie has left the nest. And so, what's next? What would 5 years from now? What do you want to see from your comedy empire growing?
That's a tough one. You know, I just want to keep building the show for sure, but I'm also like, you know, I still have my own dreams, which you know, COVID had, you know, threw a wrench in everybody's plans.
Yeah,
I actually started to get like a lot back into doing the road and reaching out more to bookers and trying to get my name out there more right before that. And it was like starting to roll a little bit, you know, not huge, but like, you know, like some shows around Nebraska and around the Midwest and stuff. Mm-hmm. And then, you know, not working, or just being stuck at home for 2 years. It just made me go, oh, okay, I don't know if I'm ready for this. You know, you know, and I don't want to write COVID jokes, and I don't want to. I wrote a lot of political jokes for a long time over the last 5 years, for obvious reasons, because it was like, you know, so like in the a national psyche.
It was just there, yeah, and you're very, very good at it. Very, very good at it.
No one wants to hear that shit, and I'm not Stephen Colbert or, you know, Samantha Bee. Like, let them do that. You know, I want to rather talk about things like that, even if they're just innocuous but are funny, and just, you know, just have people have a good laugh without any divisiveness, you know.
I think, I mean, yeah, comedy at its best is a uniter. I mean, that doesn't mean like we all have to think the same or look the same, right? But it's like we can hang out in this room and have a good time, and I think that's very. If anyone who doesn't like that, then, you know, I don't want them at the show.
Right.
Anyway, that's like
exactly.
Well, where can people learn more about you, Brad?
Oh, I have a website that I haven't updated since 2015, I think. But
way to sell tickets.
I was thinking of that today, driving home from work. I was like, I should probably update that Homestead site. I spend $10.99.
I mean, my GeoCity is up and running again. Yeah.
I keep it because they would let me use the handle Brad's damn website. Like if you Google Brad Stewart comedy, the first thing that comes up is Brad's damn website. I don't. Zoolarious page is the one I'm most active on. Zoolarious page, or my Brad Stewart fan page on Facebook, where I post, you know, stuff that's coming up. And although Facebook might be taking a header any day now, so who knows? And I'm not going to be sad about it. I only use it because it's good for comedy still. I mean, it's good to get the word out to a lot of people. But I'm surprised that something hasn't come and taken its place at this point, because
it's lasted longer than most of us have expected yet. But so, yeah, if you're in the Lincoln area, please check out Brad's show, Zoolarious. Check him out online. Go to his website, support him. He's just great comic, wonderful human. Thank you so much, Brad, for joining.
Yeah, thank you.